Reminder, we are all living a story. The question is, are we writing the story for our lives that we want? And that's what we do here, is to make sure that that's happening for the future. But we've already lived a part of our story in our past. And some of those things may feel like really good things, and some may feel like not so good things. And that's all a part of the deal. Your story matters, even the struggles and the traumas and the stuff. So today, I want you to fall in love with your story. Everything that's already been written to this point, all the chapters that have already been written in your story. Are you ready? Okay. Got your journal and a writing utensil and maybe a coffee or something. If not, hit pause. I'll be here when you get back. Okay. I'm going to use the acronym LOVE, L-O-V-E, to structure some questions. And after I ask you the question, I want you to pause the video and I want you to write in your journal about that question. And then I'll be here when you get back, waiting anxiously for you. Not anxiously, lovingly, respectfully. All right, falling in love with your story. The L is, what have you learned so far in your story? And learning can come from academic endeavors. It can come from books, videos, classes you've taken. So think about it in terms of more of the academic side of things. And I don't want you to think that you have to go through this as a chronological list. I don't want you to go, well, in first grade, I learned. When I ask that question, there will be some things that just naturally bubble up, because our subconscious mind is our story center. Remember, we've covered that previously. All of the experiences, all the classes you've taken, all the things that you've learned, it's in there. And so when I ask you this question, the things that are most emotional, the things that are most attached to things that are important in your life will bubble up. Trust it. Our inner Thrive Guide will go get the stuff that is most important to this exercise and bring it to the front of your mind for you to write it down. So just stream of consciousness. When I ask the question, what have you learned? Then just start writing what your inner Thrive Guide brings to you to write down. Okay, I'll see you when you get back. Okay. Oh, what have you overcome? And as you're writing about what you've overcome, write also about what you've learned from that experience, because our struggles are teachers too. And it's impossible to get through life without them. They're necessary. And we don't need to hide from them. We don't need to hide them from others. Every single human on this planet has something that they've dealt with and overcome or are working to overcome. It's all a part of our story. So go ahead and be kind to yourself. Go in falling in love with your story and write, what have you overcome and what have you learned from it? Pause me. I'll be here. Next is V. What have you verified for yourself to be true for you? Now, this one is where we really get at that uniqueness in ourselves, because we're all unique down to our fingerprints. We cover that a lot. And so some things we have to learn and verify for ourselves. I'm going to give you a couple examples for me. to illustrate what we're looking for. I have verified through lots of trial and error that I am not meant to have short hair. No matter how cute Reese Witherspoon looks with bangs and a little pixie, that's not for me. I can show you evidence that that's true because I've tried it more than a couple of times. So, is that true for everybody? Heavens no. Reese Witherspoon looks amazing in those cuts that I take to my girl and say, I want this hair. That doesn't mean it looks good on me. I see people walking around the street that look amazing in a cute little short haircut. That's not for me. I have also verified for this chapter in my story that it is fundamental, critical, that I have the freedom to create in my work. I was working in a well-paid, well-respected, successful role at Franklin Covey for 19 years. But I reached a point where I needed the ability to use more of my creative gifts and talents. I'm a writer. I love to draw and paint and create things. I always have. And I wasn't able to use as much of my creativity as I was craving for myself. So that's one of the key reasons that I left that successful position and started my own business to satisfy that need. So sometimes we get to different parts of our lives, different chapters of our story, and realize that we need to make a shift and a change. And who tells us that? Our inner Thrive Guide. And so this verification process isn't about somebody out there giving us a grade or a promotion or verifying something for us. It's about us listening to us. So what have you verified is true for you uniquely in your life? Okay, E. E is for emotions. Remember, personal, emotional, and social. And we make decisions on emotion from our subconscious back here. And then we validate it on facts in our prefrontal cortex. So our emotions are a really important part of our inner Thrive Guide and how we're feeling about things. It's why if you get next to people, sometimes you just get a spidey sense that they're not safe or they're not good. Like just how we feel matters. So in this reflection question, 2 parts to this one, okay? The first part is, what was 14-year-old you doing for fun? 14 years old represents the first part of your life where you're starting to have some freedom and autonomy. You don't always have to go to the grocery store with mom and dad. You can make choices about your own friends when you get to school or how you spend your time alone in your room. And so it's a really good time to go back to before a parent or a coach or someone else told you who you were. It's when you were just being yourself. So part 1 of E, emotions, is I want you to pause me and I want you to write the things that you were doing for fun when you were 14. And then when we come back, I'll have you go a little deeper on part 1, and then we'll go to part 2. Pause. Part 2. When you look at what you were doing for fun at 14, like maybe there's a sport that you've listed on there, or playing video games, or reading books, or hanging out with your friends, whatever it is, I want you to ask yourself, what did you love about it? Now, this is important because even in a common activity, let's take sports, for example. When people tell me that they loved a sport, and then I say, well, what did you love about it? People have different reasons that they love the same sport. Some people will say, I loved the discipline that it took to get my body to do the moves required for that sport. Some people will tell me that they love the competition. Some people will tell me that they loved the bus rides to the tourneys. Some will say they love to work as a team. There are clues in there about who you are based on what you loved about these things. So pause and go back and look at what you wrote and ask yourself for each of those areas, what did you love about that thing that you were doing when you were 14? Pause. Okay, so you're starting to get some clues about some things there. So then part 2 of E for emotions, what are those things that really light up your emotions? And remember, you have a full range of emotions, not just the good stuff. So things that trigger or light up your emotions with either joy or sorrow or anger or sadness. What are those things that really get to you? I'll give you a couple of examples. My mom is an animal person. I mean, she likes animals more than people, and we just all know that about her. Evidenced by when I was a child, we lived out in the country, and our neighbors had a dog that got hit on the road, and it was injured. It wasn't unalived, and it was limping, it was hurt. And these people were not going to take this dog to the veterinarian to be fixed. And my mom was not having it. She went and picked that dog up, took it to the vet, took care of it, and then took it back to the people and said, don't you ever neglect this dog again, or I won't bring it back. So my mother is very emotionally invested in animal welfare, more so than just, I got a dog or a cat. It's deep, y'all. Another example, I am really emotional about connection. If I meet somebody, I can't not think about who I want to introduce you to that I think would be a great connection for you. If I see someone sitting alone somewhere that looks like they want some company, I will invite them in to sit with me or whoever I'm with. I just care a lot about connection, which I know is rooted in the fact that I grew up as an only child on a small farm with mostly adults. And so I was probably lonely a lot. I spent a lot of time in the barn with the with the cats and the cows. And so it's a big part of my life. So I have an emotional response to connection or lack of connection. So those are 2 examples. It could be anything. But when I ask you the question, what really lights up or triggers emotions for you? What are those things? Pause. Okay. Now I want you to go back and read through the things that you wrote. Just what stands out? Circle things, underscore things, star things. Just what stands out to you as you read through all of those things about your story? And look for patterns or clues or themes. Just let your inner Thrive Guide speak to you as you read back through falling in love with your story. Okay, I'm proud of you for just taking some time to think about you and who you are, because I want you to know yourself so well that it'll probably never happen because it would be a weird response. But if somebody ever walked up to you and said, hi, who are you? You would use different words and a different description about who you are. Okay, when we come back, we'll discuss a little bit more about what that means for connections and what's next in your life. Love you, Mina.